On the left here is the drying barn at Century Wood, next to the log cabin. This video has a quick tour of the barn as it is now in 2021, showing how I use it, and then some pictures like these about how I designed and built it in 2018. The first thing is this big doorway on the end. I'm standing here with my back to the roadway, and the doorway allows you to get a car or a small van right into the barn. Inside now, the barn is about 15 metres long by 5 metres wide, so a good size. I tied it up immediately before making this video, but it does tend to accumulate random stuff rather like a garden shed does. The barn has 6 bays, 3 of which are open to the side. This first open one lines up with the side door of the log cabin, so you can dash across in the rain, that kind of thing. These steel beams used to be gangways across a ditch. I've reused them to stack firewood off the ground. The wood I cut last winter has gone home already, and most of what's left is from spring and early summer, and it's all down to below 20% moisture content too. These 2 open bays lead out to the yard behind the cabin. If I ever start making charcoal, I'll be doing it out there. They're wide enough to drive in and out with the tractor and its trailer. Let's have a closer look at the roof. The trusses tie the walls together and provide the rafters that the horizontal purlins sit on. The steel roofing sheets are screwed into those purlins. There's quite a lot of dry space up there, but for now it just has lengths of wood stored in it. The walls are 6-inch boards with 2-inch gaps. Pretty much traditional agricultural boarding for a barn. The boards are nailed to the outside of these horizontal rails, so there's always the option to cover the gaps with boards on the inside but still let the air through, which would make it what's called Yorkshire boarding. The timber is all pressure treated, but I treated it myself with Creocoat as well. That's not proper creosote, so it just gives you a bit of a water resistance. I really did it to match the various shades of the timber, to make the barn blend in with the woodland better and to match the log cabin. And I never got round to doing all of the inside. The area here is where I park the car, and as you can see it's also big enough to have the trailer on the back too, so you can load logs straight onto it from the wood piles. It also means you're doing all the loading and unloading of the car and the trailer in the dry, which is always good. That's a piece of string hanging there so I don't reverse the car in too far. I might put up gutters next year as part of being more organised about the water supply, but I'm also going to try drilling a borehole, and that will be a more reliable source than collecting rainwater if it does work out. Back in the yard again. That box on the back of the cabin is part of the new solar electric system I put in this year, and I'm going to make a video about that too. The setup includes an inverter to make 240 volts mains current, and this means I can have power tools like miter saws, mains drills and circular saws on the workbench inside the barn. In the past I've prefabricated everything at home, but it's good to have the option to make things to measure on site. So that's what the barn looks like now. Next a bit about how I designed and built it. This is one of my sketches when I was planning the build and ordering the timber. It was very close to the eventual building as finally built. I started by extending the glade to create more space for the barn and the yard. Then I put these post anchors into the ground. The barn is really a type of pole barn, but instead of embedding the poles in cement, I used these anchors. This slows down the process of rotting and should make it easy to replace any that do go. It also makes it easy to align things. You align the post anchors rather than cutting off the top of the posts to make them all level. Here's the first delivery of timber. You can see the summer crop of nettles behind that grow if unchecked. First post up, horizontal rail between posts, assembling the end truss, I put tarpaulins down to start suppressing the nettles in the barn footprint. I really should have done this right from the start. These are the boards for the walls. I kept them covered up because they got really soaked with water and expanded while stacked horizontally. The board's in place. These are the purlins that went on the rafters. I brought the steel roofing sheets on site, and this was the first one to go up. The 3-metre long sheets allowed me to do each slope with a single sheet. I made these L-shaped jigs to hold a plank in place so that I could align the bottom edges of each sheet with the existing ones. It looks neater and it would be much better if I ever install rainwater gutters. The tops of the sheets, you can see one of the special roofing screws on the right. They have a plastic and metal washer which gets compressed and keeps water out of the hole. They're also self-tapping, so they drill their own hole through the steel. I then put a V-shaped ridge sheet to bridge the gap. More sheets, including the ridge sheets. A better view of the sheets and the roofing screws. The view along the ridge sheets from below. I did almost all the work using these tools. The hammer is an American framing hammer, longer than a normal joinery hammer, and it has a magnetic slot for nails, so you can tap them in with one hand and then properly hammer them home, all while clinging onto a ladder with your other hand. This cheapo drill from Screwfix has a hex driver for putting the roofing screws in. Again, it's magnetic, which makes everything easier. One thing that I wanted to mention is that the barn isn't all perfectly square. There's a bit of a ripple in the height of the edge, as you can see here. When you read guides about using roofing sheets, they always stress that you need to make a good square frame. However, I found it didn't matter that much. It would be more important if you were trying to make a wind-tight building where everything has to fit together without any gaps. Another thing is that I managed to do all the work myself without needing other people to help lift things into place. Having some straps and clamps to hold the other end of beams or to hold up roofing sheets is what made all that possible. Once you put something into the wood starts to interact with it, of course. This picture from 2019 shows an abandoned wasp's nest in the corner of the barn. On the same day, I took these pictures of the remains of grey squirrels on the floor of the barn, probably taken there by buzzards. It shows just how dry the floor is, which of course is great for firewood. And this is despite of all the rain we get, even in Shropshire. So there we have it. The barn has made a big difference, and having dry, shaded space to work in when it rains or gets hot and sunny is really useful. If you have enjoyed this video, please subscribe to see more videos about managing the wood, staying in the off-grid log cabin, producing firewood, and updating the solar electric system in the cabin.